Hare Krishna. We are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam today, Canto 3, Chapter 33, Text 4. We'll begin with the prayers. Om Ajnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Eva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirayet Nashtaprayeshu Abhatreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. So, this is Canto 3, Chapter 33, entitled Activities of Lord Kapila. So, the verse number 4. Satvam bhrito me jathare nanatha katham nu yasyodara etat asit vishvam yugante vita patra eka shete sma maya shishur angripana. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. As the personality of Godhead, you have taken birth from my abdomen. O my Lord, how is that possible for the Supreme One who has in his belly all the cosmic manifestation? The answer is that it is possible, for at the end of the millennium, you lie down on a leaf of a banyan tree, and just like a small baby, you lick the toe of your lotus foot. Purport: at the time of dissolution, the Lord sometimes appears as a small baby lying on a leaf of a banyan tree, floating on the devastating water. Therefore, Devahuti suggests, your lying down within the abdomen of a common woman like me is not so astonishing. You can lie down on the leaf of a banyan tree and float on the water of devastation as a small baby. Therefore, it is not very wonderful that you can lie down in the abdomen of my body. You teach us that those who are very fond of children within this material world and who therefore enter into marriage to enjoy family life with children can also have the Supreme Personality of Godhead as their child. And the most wonderful thing is that the Lord Himself licks His toe. Since all the great sages and devotees apply all energy and all activities in the service of the lotus feet of the Lord, there must be some transcendental pleasure in the toes of His lotus feet. The Lord licks His toe to taste the nectar for which the devotees always aspire. Sometimes the Supreme Personality of Godhead Himself wonders how much transcendental pleasure is within Himself, and in order to taste His own potency, He sometimes takes the position of tasting Himself. Lord Chaitanya is Krishna Himself, but He appears as a devotee to taste the sweetness of the transcendental mellow in Himself, which is tasted by Srimati Radharani, the greatest of all devotees.
Wow. Hare Krishna, Leela Manjari Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Guru Maharaj and Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances. So would anybody like to read text 5?
Am I the only other person on the call?
There is Antaranga Seva Mataji, I believe.
Okay.
Yes, I can read, Mataji. Barik. Tvam deha tantra prasamaya papanam nidesha bhajam cha vibho vibhutaye yatha avatarastava sukharadayas tathayam api atma pathopalabdhye. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. My dear Lord, you have assumed this body in order to diminish the sinful activities of the fallen and to enrich their knowledge in devotion and liberation. Since these sinful people are dependent on your direction, by your own will you assume incarnations as a boar and as other forms. Similarly, you have appeared in order to distribute transcendental knowledge to your dependents. In the previous verses, the general transcendental qualifications of the Supreme Personality of Godhead were described. Now, the specific purpose of the Lord's appearance is also described. By his different energies, he bestows different kinds of bodies upon the living entities who are conditioned by their propensity to lord it over the material nature. But in course of time, these living entities become so degraded that they need enlightenment. It is stated in the Bhagavad Gita that whenever there are discrepancies in the discharge of the real purpose of this material existence, the Lord appears as an incarnation. The Lord's form as Kapila directs the fallen souls and enriches them with knowledge and devotion so that they may go back to Godhead. There are many incarnations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, like those of the boar, the fish, the tortoise, the half man, half lion. Lord Kapila Dev is also one of the incarnations of Godhead. It is accepted herein that Lord Kapila Dev appeared on the surface of the earth to give transcendental knowledge to the misguided, conditioned souls.
Thank you, Antaranga Seva Mataji. So we'll be reading text 6 also. Anybody would like to read text 6?
I can read Mataji.
Sure, Mataji.
Okay, text 6. Yan namadeya shravanam kirtanad yat pravanad yat smaranad api kavachit shvado api sadya savanaya kalpate kuta punaste bhagavanu darshanat. A translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. To say nothing of the spiritual advancement of persons who see the Supreme Person face to face, even a person born in a family of dog eaters immediately becomes eligible to perform Vedic sacrifices if he once utters the holy name of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or chants about him, hears about his pastimes, offers him obeisances, or even remembers him. Purport. Herein, the spiritual potency of chanting, hearing, or remembering the holy name of the Supreme Lord is greatly stressed. Rupa Goswami has discussed the sequence of sinful activities of the conditioned soul, and he has established in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu that those who engage in devotional service become freed from the reactions of all sinful activities. This is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. The Lord says that he takes charge of one who surrenders unto him, and he makes him immune to all reactions to sinful activities. If by chanting the holy name of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one becomes so swiftly cleared of all reactions to sinful activities, then what is to be said of those persons who see him face to face? Another consideration here is that persons who are purified by the process of chanting and hearing become immediately eligible to perform Vedic sacrifices. Generally, only a person who is born in a family of Brahmanas who has been reformed by the 10 kinds of purificatory processes and who is learned in Vedic literature is allowed to perform the Vedic sacrifices. But here the word sadhyaha, immediately, is used. And Sridhar Swami also remarks that one can immediately become eligible to perform Vedic sacrifices. A person born in a family of the low caste, which is accustomed to eat dogs, is so positioned due to his past sinful activities. But by chanting or hearing once in pureness, or in an offenseless manner, he is immediately relieved of the sinful reaction. Not only is he relieved of the sinful reaction, but he immediately achieves the result of all purificatory processes. Taking birth in the family of a Brahmana is certainly due to pious activities in one's past life. But still, a child who is born in a family of a Brahmana depends for his further reformation upon initiation into acceptance of a sacred thread and many other reformatory processes. But a person who chants the holy name of the Lord, even if born in a family of chandalas, dog eaters, does not need reformation. Simply by chanting Hare Krishna, he immediately becomes purified and becomes as good as the most learned Brahmana. Sridhar Swami especially remarks in this connection, Anena Pujatvam, can't read that letter, I think it's Lakshyate. Some caste Brahmanas remark that by chanting Hare Krishna, purification begins. Of course, it depends on the individual process of chanting. But this remark of Sridhar Swami's is completely applicable if one chants the holy name of the Lord without offense, for he immediately becomes more than a Brahmana. As Sridhar Swami says, Pujatvam, he immediately becomes as respectable as a most learned Brahmana and can be allowed to perform Vedic sacrifices. If simply by chanting the holy name of the Lord, one becomes sanctified instantly, then what can be said of those persons who see the Supreme Lord face to face and who understand the descent of the Lord, as Devahuti understands Kapila Dev? Usually, initiation depends on a bona fide spiritual master who directs the disciple. If he sees that a disciple has become competent and purified by the process of chanting, he offers the sacred thread to the disciple just so that he will be recognized as 100% equal with a Brahmana. This is also confirmed in the Hari Bhakti Vilas by Sri Sanatan Goswami. As a base metal, like bell metal, can be changed into gold by a chemical process, any person can similarly be changed into a Brahmana by Diksha Vidhan, the initiation process. It is sometimes remarked that by the chanting process, one begins to purify himself and can take birth in his next life in a Brahmana family and then be reformed. But at this present moment, even those who are born in the best Brahmana families are not reformed, nor is there any certainty that they are actually born of Brahmana fathers. Formerly, the Garbandhana reformatory system was prevalent, but at the present moment there is no such Garbandhana or seed-giving ceremony. Under these circumstances, no one knows if a man is factually born of a Brahmana father. Whether one has acquired the qualification of a Brahmana depends on the judgment of the bona fide spiritual master. He bestows upon the disciple the position of a Brahmana by his own judgment. When one is accepted as a Brahmana in the sacred thread ceremony under the Pancharatrika system, then he is Dvija, twice born. That is confirmed by Sanatan Goswami. Vijatvam Jayate. By the process of initiation by the spiritual master, a person is accepted as a Brahmana in his purified state of chanting the holy name of the Lord. He then makes further progress to become a qualified Vaishnava, which means that the Brahminical qualification is already acquired. Thank you.
Thank you so much for reading Antaranga Seva Mataji and Kuvatandila Mataji. So, very, very important topics that are discussed in these verses. So, these are verses that are being now spoken by Devahuti. He is responding to her son by in text 4, she's talking about that the Supreme Personality of Godhead has actually taken birth from her womb. And in one sense, she is astonished because we know that during the pastime of Damodar Leela, which is coming up very soon, tomorrow is the first day of Kartik. It is also celebrated as the Damodar month because a very glorious pastime took place during this time of the year. And Mother Yashoda, she wanted to bind Krishna because he had stolen Patus. And she wanted to chastise him by tying him with ropes to a grinding mortar. And as she was trying to tie Krishna, she brought the rope, and the rope would not go around his belly. So she brought more rope from the cows. And she, the second time also, like the rope would not go around the belly. And it was just 2 fingers short. It was not, every time she brought a longer rope, it was 2 fingers short. So then the acharyas explained that why was it not going around the belly of the Lord? It was because in the belly, in the abdomen of the Supreme Lord is the entire universe. And what rope would be long enough to go around the entire universe? So that is the question that is being raised here. Oh my Lord, how is it possible for the Supreme One who has in his belly all cosmic manifestation? So the Supreme Lord has the entire cosmic manifestation in his belly. But at the same time, he can take birth from the womb of a mother. And now she is showing more astonishment that it's anything is possible for you because as a Supreme Lord, you can lie down on the leaf of a banyan tree, just like a small baby, and lick the toe of your lotus feet. So now this is a very interesting story, which is given in 12th canto, chapter 9. And this is the story of Markandeya Rishi. So Markandeya Rishi, I'll read the story. Markandeya, in short, in summary, Markandeya Rishi had performed many austerities, and he was given the benediction that he would live a very, very long life. But the day of Brahma had come to a closure and the night had Brahma had started. So, what happens during the night of Brahma? That it is the time of devastation. So, the entire universe flooded, and Markandeya Rishi had no place to go. He was actually being tossed in the ocean of devastation. At that time, he started offering prayers to the Lord, and the Lord appeared on a small banyan leaf, and he appeared in his baby form, and he licked his toe. So, this is the entire pastime that is being referred to here. At the end of the millennium, you lie down on the leaf of a banyan tree, and just like a small baby, you lick the toe of your lotus foot. So, uh, the story goes like this from chapters 9 of Canto 12. Suta Goswami said, the Supreme Lord Narayan, the friend of Nara, was satisfied by the proper glorification offered by the intelligent sage Markandeya. Thus the Lord addressed the excellent descendant of Prithu. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, my dear Markandeya, you are indeed the best of the learned Brahmanas. You have perfected your life by practicing fixed meditation on the Supreme Soul, as well as by focusing upon me, your undivided devotional service, your austerities, your study of the Vedas, and your strict adherence to regulative principles. We are perfectly satisfied by your practice of lifelong celibacy. Please choose whatever benediction you desire so I can grant your wish. May you enjoy all good fortune. The sage said, O Lord of Lords, all glories to you. O Lord Achita, you remove all distress for the devotees who surrender unto you. That you have allowed me to see you is all the benediction I want. Such demigods as Lord Brahma achieved their exalted position simply by seeing your beautiful lotus feet after their minds had become mature in yoga practice. And now, my Lord, you have personally appeared before me. O lotus eyed Lord, O crest jewel of renowned personalities, although I am satisfied simply by seeing you, I do wish to see your illusory potency, by whose influence the entire world, together with its ruling demigods, consider reality to be materially variegated. Sutta Goswami said, O wise Shaunaka, dissatisfied by Markandeya's praise and worship, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, smiling, replied, so be it, and then departed for his hermitage at Badrikashram. From his hermitage at Badrikashram. Thinking always of his desire to see the Lord's illusory energy, the sage remained in his ashram, meditating constantly upon the Lord. Within fires, the sun, the moon, waters, the earth, air, lightning, and his own heart, and worshipping him with paraphernalia conceived in his mind. But sometimes, overwhelmed by the waves of love for the Lord, Markandeya would forget to perform his regular worship. O Brahmana Shaunaka, the best of the Prigus, one day while Markandeya was performing his evening worship on the bank of Pushpabhadra, a great wind suddenly arose. That wind created a terrible sound and brought in its wake fearsome clouds that were accompanied by lightning and roaring thunder that poured down on all sides torrents of rain as heavy as wagon wheels. Then the four great oceans appeared on all sides, swallowing up the surface of the earth with their wind tossed waves. In these oceans were terrible sea monsters, fearful whirlpools, and ominous rumbling. The sage saw all the inhabitants of the universe, including himself, tormented within and without by the harsh winds, the bolts of lightning, the great waves rising beyond the sky. As the whole earth was flooded, he grew perplexed and fearful. Even as Markandeya looked on, the rain pouring down from the clouds filled the ocean more and more until that great sea, its waters violently whipped into terrifying waves by hurricanes, covered up the Earth's islands, mountains, and continents. The water inundated the earth, outer space, heaven, and the celestial region. Indeed, the entire expanse of the universe was flooded in all directions. and out of all its inhabitants, only Markandeya remained. His matted hair scattered, the great sage wandered about alone in the water as if dumb and blind, tormented by hunger and thirst, attacked by monstrous Makaras and Timingala fish, and battered by the wind and waves. He moved aimlessly through the infinite darkness into which he had fallen. As he grew increasingly exhausted, he lost all sense of direction and could not tell the sky from the earth. At times he was engulfed by great whirlpools, sometimes he was beaten by the mighty waves, and at other times the aquatic monsters threatened to devour him as they attacked one another. Sometimes he felt lamentation, bewilderment, misery, happiness, or fear, and at other times he experienced such terrible illness and pain that he felt himself dying. Countless millions of years passed as Markandeya wandered about in that deluge, his mind bewildered by the illusory energy of Lord Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Once, while wandering in the forest, once while wandering in the water, the Brahmana Markandeya discovered a small island upon which stood a young banyan tree bearing blossoms and fruits. On the northwest portion of the tree, he saw an infant boy lying within a leaf. The child's effulgence was swallowing up the darkness. The infant's dark blue complexion was the color of emerald. His lotus face shone with wealth of beauty, and his throat bore marks like the lines of a conch on a. Mataji, someone needs to mute them. There is noise coming. Thank you. He had a broad chest and finely shaped nose, beautiful eyebrows, and lovely ears that resembled pomegranate flowers and that had inner folds like conchal spirals. The corner of his eyes were reddish like the whorls of a lotus, and the effulgence of his coral like lips slightly reddened the nectarian, enchanting smile on his face. As he breathed, his splendid hair trembled, and his deep navel became distorted by the moving folds of the skin on his abdomen. He resembled a banyan leaf. The exalted Brahmana watched with amazement as the infant took hold of one of his lotus feet with his graceful fingers, placed a toe within his mouth, and began to suck. As Markandeya beheld the child, all his weariness vanished. Indeed, so great was his pleasure that the lotus of his heart, along with his lotus eyes, fully blossomed, and the hair on his body stood on end. Confused as to the identity of the wonderful infant, the sage approached him. Just like the child inhaled, just then the child inhaled within his body like a mosquito. There, the sage found the entire universe arrayed as it had been before its dissolution. Seeing this, Markandeya was most astonished and perplexed. So, let me just repeat what just happened. Just as this child inhaled, drawing Markandeya within his body like a mosquito, there the sage found the entire universe arrayed as it had been before its dissolution. Seeing this, Markandeya was most astonished and perplexed. The sage saw the entire universe, the sky, heavens, and earth, the stars, mountains, oceans, great islands, and continents. He expands in every direction. The saintly and demoniac living entities, the forests, countries, rivers, cities, and mines, the agricultural villages and cow pastures, and the occupational and spiritual activities of the various social divisions. He also saw the basic elements of countless ages within the days of Brahma. In addition, he saw everything else created for use in material life. All this he saw manifested before him as if it were real. He saw before him the Himalaya mountains, a Pushpabhadra river, and his own hermitage, where he had had the audience of the sages Naranarayana. Then, as Markandeya beheld the entire universe, the infant exhaled, expelling the sage from his body, casting him back into the ocean of dissolution. In that vast sea, he again saw the banyan tree growing on the tiny island and the infant boy lying within the leaf. The child glanced at him from the corner of his eye with a smile imbued with the nectar of love, and Markandeya took him into his heart through his eyes. Greatly agitated, the sage ran to embrace the transcendental personality of Godhead. At that moment, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the original master of all mysticism and who is hidden within everyone's heart, became invisible to the sage, just as the achievements of an incompetent person can suddenly vanish. After the Lord disappeared, O Brahmana, the banyan tree, the great water, and the dissolution of the universe all vanished as well. And in an instant Markandeya found himself back in his own hermitage, just as before. So that's the story that's being referred to in this purport. And then Prabhupada goes on to say that actually sometimes the Lord likes to taste his own lotus feet. So that's why he put his lotus feet in his mouth. And the devotees are forever tasting the nectar of the Lord's lotus feet. And he also tells that the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is Krishna himself, he appeared as a devotee, taste the sweetness of transcendental mellows, which are tasted by Srimati Radharani. So that's the first purport. And and in text 5, he's speaking about why the Lord appears. It's actually because the Lord has a lot of affection for all of his children, all the living entities. Um, they turned away from the Lord, but He appears again and again to attract them towards Himself. And Lord Kapila appeared to give transcendental knowledge to such misguided, conditioned souls. And verse 6 is actually a very, very important verse because it describes about the glories of the holy name of the Lord and what it can do to a conditioned soul. So, according to the Vedas, if one very carefully follows the regulations that are given in the Vedas, then there is a gradual progression of consciousness of the soul. And one may be born in the family of Brahmanas and they can perform yajnas for the pleasure of the Lord. But the chanting of the holy name is so powerful that even if a person is born in a very degraded family of dog eaters, he becomes eligible to perform Vedic sacrifices. That is the potency of the holy name of the Lord. And um, so Prabhupada is describing that actually the process of chanting, hearing, or remembering the holy name of the Lord is emphasized by Srila Rupa Goswami in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. It is also described by Sanatan Goswami that even if a person is born in a low grade family, if he is accepted by a bona fide spiritual master, then he immediately becomes transformed. That is the um, potency of initiation. How does the transformation happen? So the example given here is as bell metal turns into gold. So this is the process of alchemy that is described in earlier stories, that a yogi can consume mercury at night. And mercury is usually dangerous, but yogis can do it. They can swallow some mercury at night, and in the morning they pass on bell metal. So this actually immediately converts bell metal into gold. So similarly, like that, although a person may be compared to bell metal, he's born in a low grade family. And Prabhupada is qualifying by saying actually in the age of Kali, everybody is Shudra or lower than Shudra. Because to be born in a Brahminical family, one and to be born as to possess Brahminical qualifications, one must perform the Garbhadana Samskara, which is a very important purificatory process. But people in the age of Kali are not performing the Garbhadana Samskara. Garbhadana Samskara means before a man and woman beget a child, they um, absorb themselves in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They take shelter of the devotees of the Lord, and they seek the blessings of the devotees of the Lord, and then they perform the act of having a child. But unfortunately, Prabhupada says that in Kali Yuga, children are being beget like cats and dogs. There is no time, there is no proper place, there is no proper consciousness which they think about. It's just an impulse and they act on the impulse. But that's how cats and dogs are begot. In fact, it's even worse than that in Kali Yuga. But if even if one is born in such a degraded condition, if one takes to the process of chanting the holy name of the Lord somehow or other, and he accepts initiation from a qualified spiritual master, after he has observed the spiritual master for some time, and after the spiritual master has observed the disciple very carefully for some time, then a person becomes as qualified as the Brahmana. That is the potency of chanting of the holy name. The holy name can immediately transform one's consciousness because the holy name is none other than Krishna. In this age of Kali, to um, uplift the conditioned souls, the Lord Himself has descended as His holy name. There is no difference between Krishna and Krishna's holy name. Absolutely one. Abhinatvam nama namino. The named, the person named, and his name are completely identical. Abhinatvam nama namino. So when one comes in contact with Krishna, immediately the person becomes purified. The potency is there. So, because the person is chanting Krishna's name, it means that he's directly associating with Krishna himself. And because of that, his habits, his behavior, his consciousness, his activities completely become transformed. He is also actively taking guidance from a bona fide spiritual master. And the bona fide spiritual master is actively guiding his disciple to reform himself completely. So, because of this, in fact, a Vaishnava is even considered greater than the Brahmana because worship of Vishnu is the supreme. So, this is being actually explained here that the Hare Krishna Mahamantra is Krishna himself, and one chants the Mahamantra offenselessly. So this is an important point. Prabhupada, in all of his initiation lectures, would bring up the 10 offenses against the holy name. It's important that when one is chanting the holy name, he carefully tries to avoid these 10 offenses. If one is chanting the holy name with the idea that, okay, I can simultaneously perform offenses, I can simultaneously be sinful, and still I will reap all the benefits, all my sinful reactions will be cleansed, that is an offense to Krishna. We can cheat the whole world, but we cannot cheat Krishna himself because he's sitting as Paramatma within everyone's heart and he knows our intentions. So a devotee must never feel that he can actually um, cleanse his sinful activities by chanting of the holy name. He must carefully try to avoid these 10 kinds of offenses against the holy name. And when one generally takes shelter of a bona fide spiritual master, then he is as good as a Brahmana who is born in a Brahmana family and who has accepted initiation. So, this is the message. And Srila Prabhupada would often tell his disciples, okay, if you go to India, sometimes people used to criticize these Western devotees by saying, you're not born in a Brahmin family just because you wear a sacred thread. And Prabhupada would often tell them, in fact, you're better than Brahmanas who wear that sacred thread because they're not following the principles properly. So he would always tell them that although you are, um, the qualification of a Vaishnava is not by his birth. The qualification of a Vaishnava is how sincerely he is uh, chanting the holy name of the Lord and how sincerely he's taking shelter of his spiritual masters. So this is the Diksha, the initiations that is being referred to in this verse. So the first initiation is when a disciple promises to chant a certain number of rounds and to follow the four regulative principles. That is the first initiation. And the second initiation is when he accepts Gayatri Mantra. So this is the Pancharatrika Vidhi. So both initiations are important for a devotee to progress nicely, but out of the two, the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra is most important. Even if one is not initiated, if one sincerely chants the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, then he is considered a Vaishnava, and he is even qualified to go back to Godhead just by chanting of the holy name. But in Kali Yuga, people are not so intelligent to stay focused on the path. That's why it is almost mandatory to accept a spiritual master, because then the spiritual masters can carefully guide the devotee from going astray, from doing something that is not recommended. So, acceptance of a spiritual master and chanting of the holy name, these two are sufficient to qualify one as a Brahmana. Not just that, but it also is sufficient to take one back home, back to body. So we have a few minutes for any discussion.
Hare Krishna, Leela Mandri Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Guru Maharaj and Srila Prabhupada. Thank you for a very nice class, very well explained. I was thinking, now maybe I read it wrong, I'm not sure if I heard it correctly, but it's the spiritual master who knows if the disciple has gotten the second initiation, correct? This is not recorded anywhere. The reason I mentioned it, because I think it said something about that in the reading today. The reason I say that, like in the Catholic tradition, when I was going to get married, the first thing that the priest said to me is, "Are you baptized?" Well, there's baptism and confirmation. The second one is, again, more powerful, but if you're baptized, you become a Catholic, okay? So baptized in the Spirit. And it's recorded at the church where you took that sacrament. And forever, because when I got married, many years later, this priest asked me where I, where I got, where I became, baptized. And I told him the church, and he said, oh, that's not too far from me. It was very far. But he said, I will personally go there and make sure that I have the documentation that you're a baptized Catholic. And so there is a system for knowing whether or not the person meets certain qualifications. Now, so for this Brahmana qualification, there's nothing written down anywhere?
You mean like, do they keep track of how many people received Brahminical initiation in ISKCON?
Yes, I mean, I would think it's important because it was saying there that some people are not, they're claiming to be Brahmanas, but they are not really from Brahmana families.
But that's in a different context.
Okay, I guess I
I,
just didn't understand it then.
I think, the spiritual masters within ISKCON, they keep track of how many disciples they have initiated and who has received first initiation and who has received second initiation. But in the context,
Okay.
of this verse, Prabhupada is trying to explain the point. Because in India, there is a caste system. So,
Right.
and actually, how it is supposed to be is very scientific, because the mother and father are both from Brahminical background. So the child born of them also has some qualifications coming from the father and mother. Besides that, he's carefully trained by the parents and also by the spiritual master how to perform sacrifices. So in that context, there was a very scientific system, but over a course of time, it became degraded. So people were accepting Gayatri mantras from their fathers, but at the same time, they were not receiving enough training or
Oh, okay. Yeah.
the Garbhadana Samskara properly. Because of that, the quality of the Brahmanas deteriorated. They started not following the regulative principles and stuff like that. So, uh, but still they took pride that they're from a Brahminical family. So that kind of Brahmanas are being condemned by Prabhupada. Not
Mm-hmm.
by Prabhupada,
Exactly.
but because yeah, because they have no qualification. Just because somebody is wearing a thread, they cannot be called as a Brahmana. They must, um, follow
Yeah,
the.
and that's truly the same thing in the modern day, Christian tradition. They're not following
Mhm.
properly. They become baptized, and then they take their first communion, where they can receive. It's like taking prasadam for the first time. Okay, and that's at a certain age. They have to be qualified to take that first communion, and then there's the confirmation that you become a soldier of the Lord. You it's kind of like things that we do, but it's not in the same wording. And then people are not following today, seriously.
Mhm.
I see what you're trying to say. I think I just got jumbled up there. Yeah,
Yeah.
I understand now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji. Anybody else would like to say something?
Hare Krishna Mataji. Let's see, I joined the class late, but I'm just wondering, kind of on somewhat on the same thread of what Govardhan Lila was saying. It's regards to Brahminical initiation, but the kind through ISKCON. So, I guess what is the qualification? Maybe you read it or something, but what is the qualification that one take Brahminical initiation within ISKCON? Secondly, what is if one is already tied to Guru through the first initiation, then what is the significance of the second initiation? Why must one be given the mantra to say because on the internet people are just like they're like songs or whatever. People are just like, and people a bunch of karmis are going to different like forums, and everybody is very unqualified, and they're all chanting the Gayatri. They might be drinking 2 minutes before they come in, and they're or whatever, and they're very loosely chanting in a group the Gayatri. And then what is third question, what is the meaning of the Gayatri? I've also looked online, and I guess different groups of people have different understandings. So just kind of wondering what the ISKCON understanding of Gayatri is. It's probably too many questions.
Those are all
Sorry.
very relevant and good questions, Manasi Ganga Mataji. Thank you so much for your thoughtful questions. So your first question was, what are the qualifications for one to accept Gayatri
Within ISKCON.
in ISKCON? So the answer is very simplistic in one sense, but it a lot depends on whether the spiritual master feels that one is qualified to receive second initiation. So it really depends on this spiritual master, what he wants to do. Because because he's on such an elevated platform, although we may not know like where we stand in our Krishna consciousness, it's very easy to see like how well the disciple is doing in his spiritual life. You are a teacher, so you can easily relate to it. A child may be very confident that he's doing well in his subject, but because you're the teacher, you know where his shortcomings are, where he's and what he needs to improve. So that's exactly the vision of the spiritual master. He will not hesitate at all if he sees that the disciple is qualified. He is more than eager to give second initiation, but he'll wait until the devotee becomes mature to accept those vows. And the general qualifications are: one must have accepted first initiation. They should be waited for, I believe, a 6 months period, sometimes, and they should have completed their Bhakti Shastri before their second initiation. That's all. Like on paper, these are the only rules. And your second question was?
Was it? Oh, I know one of them was, what is the meaning of Gayatri? Oh, what is the significance of Guru giving? Like, because you see people on the internet or in forums just loosely chanting.
Actually, such chanting of Gayatri mantra does not yield the full potency. It's because it is described in the Shastras that one must receive mantras from a bona fide spiritual master. So there are many people who are giving mantras and there are many people who are chanting mantras, but they're not coming in disciplic succession. So
Hmm.
they will gain something, but what they gain is not Krishna Prema.
Oh.
Because chanting the mantras will have some effect on their consciousness. But
Mm,
full ripened benefit comes only when the Gayatri mantra is received in bona fide disciplic succession.
okay.
So that is true with any mantra, not just Gayatri mantra, any kind of mantra. It has to come in a bona fide disciplic succession for its full potency to manifest. And actually, Gayatri should not be chanted loudly. Gayatri mantra.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah. Okay. So these people are not following at all.
yeah,
Hmm.
they know something about the benefits, but they do not know how to properly approach it. Mm.
Hmm.
And the meaning of Gayatri mantra. Uh,
Yes.
yeah, actually, there are 7 Gayatri mantras which are given at the time of initiation. It's not just one.
Mm.
The first one is Brahma Gayatri. Then there are 2 Guru Gayatri mantras. Then there is Gaura Gayatri, 2 of them. And then
Mm.
there are 2 um,
Hare
mantras
Krishna.
for Lord Krishna.
Mm.
So the 2 mantras for Lord Krishna are actually discussed in Sri Brahma Samhita.
Uh,
Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. He explains in detail about the meaning of these 2 mantras. All of them are actually meditation on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, on the spiritual masters, on Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So I can explain overall, but I cannot go in like the words, the Sanskrit words, because I
hmm.
don't know if it is appropriate.
Yeah.
So
Right. Hmm.
the first Gayatri mantra is meditation upon the Supreme Lord, who is actually the creator, the maintainer, and destroyer of the planetary systems. So all of the Gayatris actually end with Dhimahi. Dhimahi means let me meditate upon. So then there
Mm.
is meditation upon the spiritual master because he is giving us Krishna. So that's why we meditate upon the qualities of the spiritual master. That's one of the Gayatri mantras. And about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it's very beautiful. He is giving us Krishna Prema and he is uplifting the whole world. So that's why we are meditating on Chaitanya Mahaprabhu because he's uplifting the whole world by giving Krishna Prema.
Mm.
And Krishna's Gayatri mantras are described in Brahma Samhita. Also, Sachinandan Maharaj and there is I don't remember his name, but there is another Maharaj who left his body. They have written actually 2 or 3 Maharajas have written about the meaning of the Gayatri mantras. Mahanidhi
Bhakti Charu. That one. That
uh,
one.
Charu Maharaj, I don't know if he has written a book on Gayatri
Oh.
mantras.
Oh, another one. Okay.
Sachinandan Maharaj, Mahanidhi Swami, and there is this Maharaj is Sukh, he passed away actually while he was giving Srimad Bhagavatam class. He passed away,
Oh.
but he went into samadhi and he passed away like that.
Wow.
So I will um, all some devotees. Basically, what I'm trying to say is even within ISKCON, some devotees have given explanations of the Gayatri mantras. And if you accept permission from your spiritual master to read them before your second initiation, that is fine. Otherwise, we can wait until our second initiation.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you. What? Could you start at the beginning of your sentence? It got muffled.
You can obtain permission from your spiritual master if you can read those books before second initiation.
Yeah, I would definitely go to him before. Yeah.
Yeah, or like you can wait until your second initiation.
Mm. Okay, thank you, Mataji.
You're welcome.
So Mataji, you had another question in between. The question was that if you're already connected with your guru for the first initiation, and
Oh,
what's the
yeah, I
need for
said that.
second initiation?
Right, I did say.
So actually, I heard this in a lecture by Bhakti Charu Maharaj. I don't know if that lecture was recorded, but he came to ISKCON temple, and it was a Chicago temple, and it was the initiation of Sunil Madhav Prabhu. He was explaining that the Hare Krishna Mahamantra is sufficient for somebody to go back to Godhead. Then why does the Guru give Gayatri Mantra?
Mm.
Gayatri Mantra actually enhances the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. That was his reason. Because there is no other mantra higher than Hare Krishna Mahamantra.
Mm.
So that is the reason. Guru gives the mantra.
Besides the 7 and the 1, are there any other ISKCON mantras, or is it just the 7 or whatever you said?
Seven that are usually given Mataji, but there are many, many Gayatri mantras.
Mhm, mm.
Many mantras. There is Narasimha mantra, Sudarshan mantra, so many mantras. But if the Guru sees that the disciple is qualified, he will give everything.
Oh, even within ISKCON, there's
Yes.
more. Thank you. Thank you very much for answering my questions.
You're welcome, Mataji. Thank you for the nice question. Okay, any final comment before we end?
Nothing from my side, Mataji. Thank you for the wonderful class. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Antaranga Seva Mataji.
Yeah, thank you for the nice class and discussion. It was really nice to hear. Thank you.
Thank you, Premal. Okay, so we'll end here for tonight. Dhira Shanta Mataji, Hare Krishna. I don't know if you're busy or doing something. I see your name here. Okay, we'll end here for tonight. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
Jai.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.